So I hope I'm back on, Kim. Let me introduce you. Thank you so much for being with us. Kim Johnson, you're Vice President of Marketing at Igor. You work with Igor on a consulting basis for many years. So you've been really into the field and the customers, I would say. And she joined the company's leadership team full-time in 2018. Whoa, 80, that takes a while before we're there, hopefully. Before Igor, she built a career in marketing and client consulting, and over to you.
Thank you, Eric. I am happy to be here today, and I hope I can contribute to furthering the conversation. I'd love to level set a little bit. We just went through an extremely disruptive time period for buildings, and we're facing a new normal. And the reality is that over half of US workers prefer hybrid working. They do not want a fully at-home experience or a fully in-office experience. We are also seeing that 86% of employees prefer working for a company that values outcomes over output. And then another interesting statistic is that 9% of people say that they prefer creative and collaborative teamwork at home. So when you look at all of those together, there's still a reason to have the built environment and building space, but the purpose of the building and the space has changed. And maybe this is a little bit marketing speak, but I would actually say a great way of thinking about this is, what is the value proposition for your office, for your tenants, for your building, whatever structure you're managing or thinking about? The value proposition is changing. And in order to win the war on talent, in order to best serve the people that you're trying to serve with your space, you need to think about this value proposition, because the old way of thinking of buildings as shelters and as a place to watch employees to make sure that they are indeed their 8 to 5 or doing their correct output has changed, and that's no longer going to win you in the war on talent. So when we talk about value proposition, there are a lot of ways that you can think about it. This might be the fun part, and it's a great way to engage your employees or tenants in asking them what makes a space valuable to them. And I've listed out some categories here that we all knew about, a lot of them pre-pandemic: security in your building, access control, sustainability, really from an energy efficiency perspective. But increasingly, these spaces need to adapt to the reality of work today, which is, are they allowing people to be fully creative? Are they allowing for collaboration? Do they support healthy environments? Because while we say post-pandemic, the reality is that COVID is still around, and there's always been pathogens and germs to worry about, as we can see with an annual flu season and colds. So suddenly things like Jason was saying regarding air quality is coming to the top of the wish list as well. So what you can do is you can look at all these categories and think about the technologies that support your value proposition there. And there's vendors everywhere. You can get sensors for air quality, or leverage companies like the ones that have spoken already. You can have sensors for lighting, understanding your lighting in your space and understanding your people movement and how they use the space, and then change it so that it can be an opportunity to engage your employees. Maybe make your employees more loyal because of the way you've included your culture into your building, and making your culture, your building, a space to enhance your company culture. The opportunities for technologies out there, from sensors to lighting to shades, it really kind of endless. There's a lot of vendors, a lot of opportunities, and you can pick as many or as few as you want, depending on if you want a light renovation, deep renovation, or a totally new space. But the key person to make sure you have in that room is someone on your team who has that IT literacy. It could be your team members, it could be a CTO, it could be director of facilities with a director of IT, and just make sure there's collaboration on an ongoing basis, that people are connecting not just in the planning and the initial implementation, but an ongoing plan, because technology is not set or forget it. And if we're having smarter building technologies, you need to make sure that those technologies adapt for future use cases. This is why you're going to be engaging with more software as a service providers. And when you do that, you need to make sure that you can bring all these brands, all these providers into a manageable operational system. So we really propose a single software that can bring it all together. Find your smart building software platform vendor who can unify your shades, your lighting, your sensors. This allows you to actually knock down those silos. It allows you to manage and control everything from one space. It allows you to see your data in one location. And this unifying software, if it has this enterprise level security, which should be an absolute must in today's world, you can actually streamline your cybersecurity efforts so that you can really prioritize securing your system as well as possible, and then unifying all these other subsystems into that protection blanket. And that's a way that you can ensure that not only are you physically protecting your space with access control or talking about where to put your IT closet, but that you're actually protecting your cloud, your data, and you understand how that's working together and have a plan for managing it to really leverage it for your own business outcomes in addition to the people outcomes in the space. A great case study is one of our partners in Atlanta. Southwire did an innovation studio, and this is in downtown Atlanta near Georgia Tech, I believe. It really was intended to be an innovation lab for Southwire, a huge international company. And it was intended to be designed for human and occupant comfort from the beginning. And this was several years ago. Their goals were really about human design, growing sustainably, and being a place to foster innovation. A lot of the values that are really coming to the forefront at all locations today. They chose to future-proof with a secure low voltage backbone, which is power over Ethernet. They have all these devices that they connect through, shades, lighting, access control, digital signage, touchless entry, and they manage it through a solo software platform. And they were launching it. They had a large event. COVID hit, like a lot of people. There was a reevaluation of what are the use cases here. They had really thought ahead. So with that PoE backbone and one single software to unite everything, they were able to move really quickly. They implemented in this conference room I'm showing intelligent disinfection, which is a UVC light that can disinfect a space. It is really important to make sure there's no people in there. So this had to speak to people sensors, door sensors. It had to have double checks and anytime motion, auto canceling, color coordination. Every single possible safety matter had to work and work perfectly and together. And the software allowed that to happen. And because they had PoE, their internal team could just swap out a tile for a UVC light fixture, and they did it internally. No demo, huge demo, no tearing down walls, no needing to bring in outside contractors. It was something they could adapt and test quickly because of a use case that didn't even exist 2 years ago. And I think that is a great reason why you'll hear from a lot of people today about the power over Ethernet as a backbone. And I think it's something that really needs to be considered when you're talking about what your value prop is and how to achieve that for your building. So I just want to leave you with this idea that buildings are more than structures. They're a place for human connection. So it's about making sure your technology aligns to allow and enable that human connection. Because in the end, this is a quote from a Gensler work from home study this summer. Employees want an environment that allows them to work better. Otherwise, there's no reason for them to not work from home. So with that, keep that universal truth in mind. Employees do want the best of both worlds. And so in the war for talent and improved productivity, how can you compete?
Cool, very interesting. Love this whole idea of a unified platform. That's what I've been promoting for so long now. And I think this fragmentation of solutions and dashboards all over the place, that's really, basically there was a research show that 98% of C-level actually do want to invest in smart building, even though they may not know what that means. But 49%, half of them basically bail out after the first introduction to a consultant selling them either occupancy or health or well-being or smart building platform, which does HVAC, whatever. So pretty spot on. Got a couple of questions, obviously. What current trends are promoting, regarding health and sustainability, smart buildings, and how has the COVID pandemic played a role in shaping those?
Yeah, I'm seeing two sides to the sustainability story evolve and accelerate in their evolution thanks really to the pandemic. And there's sort of the internal perspective. So air quality is a huge topic now, and also the idea of personal controls. People spent so much time from home that it's no surprise we're seeing home projects, home renovations. Why? Because they can control their home space. And when they go back into the office, suddenly it feels like all these controls have been taken away. So I think you're going to see a lot of technology around personalization, having spaces respond to individual people. And that's really requiring that unification of the technology to talk to each other, to be smarter than ever before. And we're seeing the energy efficiency side, because of the rise of power over Ethernet, that's really enabling the DC microgrid to become more of a reality. And we're seeing climate disasters really drive that as well. So the pandemic's driving the idea of making buildings human-centric and sustainable from that perspective, the health and wellness. And then we're seeing the energy crisis that is being accelerated by climate changing and by pandemic, supply chain issues, natural gas shortages, really driving interest in an alternative to energy efficiency, which I think is that DC microgrid. I think those trends are here to stay.
Super. Thank you so much for your contribution.